Grandfather's Christmas Camp. Grandfather and I can't find Mr. Biggins. We whistle for him out back. We shout for him in the meadow. Grandfather blows his alpenhorn, but Mr. Biggins doesn't come. Gone up the mountain after deer again, Grandfather grumbles. I'll have to go fetch the old three-legged fool. He'll never make it back with this snow coming. I want to go, Grandfather. On Christmas Eve? His eyes blaze at me. For a long time he sizes me up, then growls. Want you dressed from head to toenail, Lizzie, and I don't want you belly aching or holding me up. Grandfather's big and leathery, and he doesn't like slowpokes. He's a mountain man. I pull on 3 pairs of socks, long underwear, thick pants, boots, undershirt, shirt, sweatshirt, sweater, coat, hat, scarf, and mittens. Grandfather packs a backpack, just in case. We clomp in our snowshoes through the old-growth forest, then up one hill, then another, steeper, steeper. Pretty soon my legs feel like logs. Mr. Biggins, Grandfather shouts. Mr. Biggins, I shout. Mr. Biggins, the mountains echo back. The snow swirls down in a carousel of sugar and doilies. Icicles hang from the trees like glass ornaments. My breath smokes, puff, puff, puff. A buck leaps across the trail. A raccoon dumps snow on us from the top of a tree. Grandfather yanks off his mittens, jams his fingers into his mouth, and whistles so loud for Mr. Biggins that I have to hold my ears. He grouches at me. Pick up the pace, child. You can't walk like a baby up a mountain. We go up the zigzagging trail Grandfather calls a switchback. It's easier to climb than a straight path. But my feet are tired anyway. Mr. Biggins, Grandfather roars to the wilderness. You're a contemptible mongrel to be pulling this on Christmas Eve. I have a mind to leave you to your own devices. But I know Grandfather doesn't mean it. He loves Biggins too much. We climb higher, higher, to the clouds. The trees grow smaller, smaller, their branches twisted into strange shapes. Grandfather calls this place the Alpine Zone. I yell for Mr. Biggins, but the wind swallows up my voice. I can't holler as loud as Grandfather. We sit down in a clearing and share a candy bar from the backpack. Grandfather rakes snow out of his beard with his fingers. He stoops to examine some footprints going up the trail. Those are Biggins' paw prints, all right. No mistaking a 3-legged dog. I begin to shiver, but I don't dare tell Grandfather. I clamp my mouth tight so my teeth won't chatter. I wish I had a bigger coat. Whoo! An owl hoots from some rotten tree hole. Last trail marker, Grandfather says near the top of the mountain. Can't go much farther. We climb over a high mound, past the fire tower. Grandfather turns round and looks at me. Legs tired? Nope, I lie. We'll make camp. Cook some meat. Biggins will smell it and come running. Then I'll give him a piece of my mind. Okay, Grandfather. We gather wood, make a fire. It's hard to start a fire up here, Grandfather says, because the air is thin. But he can always get a fire going, even when it's raining. Grandfather cups his hands around his mouth and makes a giant breath. Mr. Biggins! Here, dog! Supper, dog! But Mr. Biggins doesn't come. Grandfather empties his pack. He fries venison and melts cheese on it. He makes a hot sandwich and hands it to me. Then we crush saltines in our steaming cocoa. Saltines and cocoa? Ugh. The meat smell drifts all over the mountain, but Mr. Biggins doesn't come. The snow stops drifting down and the clouds clear. Suddenly stars twinkle from a million places. The sky is a tall one tonight. Grandfather says, "Orion." He shouts as he points at a giant in the sky. And that bright red star? Betelgeuse. That one? Regal. I can name 'em all. A curtain of rosy light from the aurora flickers across heaven. Red carpet for St. Nick, that, he says. Mr. Biggins! We clean up our supper. Then Grandfather looks at me hard. Can't leave without Mr. Biggins, you know. We'll have to bivouac. That okay by you? I look around at the deep snow. It's too deep for Biggins to run very far in. He can't make it home by himself, I say. Christmas can wait, Grandfather. Grandfather looks at me, and then he nods. And it wouldn't be Christmas without Biggins anyway, I say. Grandfather smiles at me. He gathers snow in a pile. I help to pile on more and more snow. Then we hollow out an igloo. It's not a hotel, Grandfather says, but it'll keep us warm till morning. I curl up next to Grandfather. He feels warm and he smells like wood smoke and spice. I hear him whisper something about Mr. Biggins. Then he snores. Lying in the dark, I miss Biggins' claw going ticka-ticka-ticka across the floor. I listen for barks and panting. I smell the air for stinky fur and breath. But there's only the dark. In the middle of the night, I dream of bells, jingling, jangling, echoing across the sky. I squint up through the roof of the igloo at the stars and see it. The sleigh, the long train of reindeer, and St. Nick passing over the mountain, then disappearing into a cloud. I'm dreaming, I think, and curl up closer against Grandfather. Merry Christmas, Grandfather, I say in my sleep. I wake to the smell of bacon frying in a pan. A three-legged brown missile with a jangling collar leaps on me and laps my nose. Mr. Biggins! Lost his way and didn't catch the dough. Been eaten like a starved pig, Grandfather says. Come out, St. Nick, you brought something. Oh, sorry, come out, St. Nick brought you something. What is it? Our ride home. I see two runners lashed onto long planks, a whittling knife in Grandfather's hands, a pile of wood shavings by his feet. He gives me a wink. A sled. We finish eating and pack our mess. Grandfather gets on the sled and back. I get in front. Mr. Biggins squats in the middle and slobbers down my neck. Whoosh! Down the mountain trail, past the fire tower, around the gnarly trees, zigzag across the switchback, up over the humpbacks and shoulders, bump, bump, bump over the moguls, around and down a chute, shh, past the frozen pond, through the old-growth forest, galump-a-bump, over the washboard foothills and through the meadow to the old log cabin with the sway-backed roof. Me, Grandfather, and Mr. Biggins, safe at home on Christmas Day.